Okay, welcome in Dharma Boots. We are just getting started. I thought today would be a great chance, since yesterday we talked about having compassion for others. Another way that might look would be the friends that we keep around us, those that we keep around us. I'm going to be bringing a story into it. Most of you should have heard this story by now, but we're going to bring it up anyway. Again, just as a reminder. We're going to be talking about friends, though. So let's get to it. So, usually when we're talking about friends, we're going to be talking about the Buddhist discourse to Sigalaka, and talking about the 4 types of friends that are good friends and 4 types of friends that are not good friends. Today I wanted to kind of just go over a little bit slightly different kind of understanding. And no, we're not going to do the 7. Well, we'll do the 7 factors, and then we'll do another 7 factors. And then I want to talk about how we be this kind of friend for each other, because sometimes it's not so hard. It's not so easy. Sometimes it's very hard to find somebody who can be that friend for us, with us. Sometimes we just don't have access to them, and sometimes, especially if we're talking about in a dharmic context, like if we're trying to make sure that we have good friends who are dharmic, sometimes that's a real struggle. Because a lot of us as dharmikas, sometimes we don't live in places where there are established temples. In fact, a lot of times we don't. And so it's really, really hard to build a little community without dharmic friends. So what do we do in that case? Well, we find friends who can help us even if they're not dharmic, and we find friends who possess specific qualities, because those will be the most helpful, and those will be the ones that we can benefit them as well when we bring our dharmic stuff, when we bring the Dharma into that context. So, we'll first go through the 7 factors and then another 7 factors. So monks, one should associate with a friend who possesses 7 factors. What 7? He gives what is hard to give. He does what is hard to do. He patiently endures what is hard to endure. He reveals his secrets to you. He preserves your secrets. He does not forsake you when you are in trouble. He does not roughly despise you. One should associate with a friend who possesses these 7 factors. And then he goes into verse. A friend gives what is hard to give, and he does what is hard to do. He forgives you your harsh words, and endures what is hard to endure. He tells you his secrets, yet he preserves your secrets. He does not forsake you in difficulties, nor does he roughly despise you. A person here in whom these qualities are found is a friend. One desiring a friend should resort to such a person. So this part seems pretty simple, pretty clear, right? This is the Buddha saying, okay, well, if you want to find somebody who is going to help you in your practice, who's going to help you in your life, who's going to be a friend for you, this is what you look for. He carries on and gives another 7 factors that I think are probably also useful, and ones that I don't usually bring up. And so we're gonna go through this one and see how this maybe relates to our lives and how we might practice the Dharma. And these are people that, according to the Buddha, right, should be cherished in our lives. These are people that we should, if we're doing things the right way, these are people who we should look for to make sure that we are taking care of them as well as they're taking care of us. So being a friend is not just, or seeking friends is not just looking for people who can do things for you. This is things that you're supposed to do too. Things that parts of your life that you're supposed to be making sure that you are this person for other people, right? We talked yesterday about goodwill and compassion, and we talked about how these things are necessary, and like a mother would protect her child, her only child, so too do you need to have that sense of compassion for others, right? But this goes a little bit further and says, okay, well, it's not just that, right? You also have to have certain other qualities that you're bringing to the table for others, right? And of course, they should bring the same thing to you. If they don't, well, find better friends. I hate to say it that way because it sounds coarse and petty and heartless, but
friends are not doing these things for you, you probably should seek out somebody who is. And if you're not doing these for your friends, don't be surprised if they go and seek someone who will do this for them. Right? Okay, so another 7 factors. Monks. One should associate with a monk friend who possesses 7 qualities. One should resort to him and attend on him, even if he dismisses you. You see how deep this goes already. All right, let's keep going. What 7? He is pleasing and agreeable. He is respected and esteemed. He is a speaker. Okay. He patiently endures being spoken to. He gives deep talks, and he does not enjoin one to do what is wrong. He is dear, respected, and esteemed, a speaker and one who endures speech. So somebody who you can dialogue with, right? This is not somebody who is just going to like tell you, who's going to like blast words in your face and say, this is the right thing to do, right? This is somebody who's also listening, somebody who also cares enough to listen to what's going on. And fortunately, I've been blessed both on the both with my friends who are monks and with my friends who are not monks, that in a lot of cases I find these qualities in all of these qualities in them. He is dear, respected, and esteemed, a speaker and one who endures speech. He gives deep talks and does not enjoin one to do what is wrong. The person here in whom these qualities are found is a friend, benevolent and compassionate. Even if one is dismissed by him, one desiring a friend should resort to such a person. Okay, so let's look over these different factors, all 14, and see which one of these matters. Each of us are probably going to have a slightly different idea of which one matters the most. But let's see which ones matter to us, right? And your results may be different than mine. I'm just going to give you mine for example purposes, okay? So, gives what is hard to give, does what is hard to do, patiently endures what is hard to endure, reveals his secrets to you, preserves your secrets, does not forsake you when you are in trouble, and does not roughly despise you, is pleasing and agreeable, is respected, is esteemed, is a speaker, patiently endures being spoken to, gives deep talks, and does not enjoin one to do what is wrong. So, in large part, these are kind of like, all of these are parts of what it takes to be a Kalyana Mitra, an admirable friend in the Dharma. Right? And this is what, I know that I've mentioned this term on a couple of occasions, where this is kind of what we, as myself as a Buddhist chaplain, this is a thing that I aspire to be. Like, I'm not always perfect at it. I don't always get it right. And at that time, at those times, that's when I need to understand that somebody's going to speak to me and somebody's going to come out and say, okay, this is a better way to do things. Take it. Again, I'm not perfect either. None of us are. So for me, those ones kind of, particularly as a chaplain, right? Being able to speak to somebody, being able to listen to them, being able to dialogue with them, right? Being able to give them that deep talk, that talk that has meaning and purpose, and at the same time not enjoining one to do what is wrong. Those things are quite important to me. The thing, the first 7, gives what is hard to give, does what is hard to do. Those ones matter too. Being patient and enduring what is hard, patiently enduring what is hard to endure. That kind of makes sense. As a chaplain, like, you would expect that secrets would be kind of like, we have full confidentiality. We are not mandatory reporters, and we keep your secrets, right? We're supposed to. And we would expect the same of you, but we know that that's like, we are the only pretty is only non-mandatory reporters anywhere in the Army. So we will keep your secrets, even if you don't keep ours. And we're not going to forsake you when you're in trouble, right? So these are qualities that I aspire to as a chaplain, right? As a, really as a Buddhist, as an aspiring, and sometimes I get it right, Kalyana nature, right? Sometimes I don't get it right, and that's on me. But for me, it's so important to, those deep talks, and being able to have those deep, compassionate dialogues with people. That matters to me a lot, right? And so I want to bring up a couple of cases where this has been the case. Part of this is my fellow Buddhist chaplains, right? We have a whole group chat going with all of us, and there have been times where I've posted some things and they either agreed or didn't agree, and that's totally okay, right? We've had some deep, meaningful conversation around some hard topics. And that's totally okay. That's totally doable. And I appreciate that. I appreciate them for being that kind of friend. And I also appreciate, so I realize that many of you are not in a place where you're going to have routine access to a temple, routine access to monks and nuns, or Buddhist clergy of various varieties. That you're kind of out there winging it on your own. I get that, I do. I think the nearest actual Buddhist temple for anywhere in this area close to me, there are like 2 temples in Nuremberg and 1 in Regensburg, and then after that I think the next closest one would probably be like Frankfurt, or Munich, maybe Munich. So there's really not much in the way of options, is what I'm getting at, right? So in order to have these kinds of friends around me, I sometimes will have to resort to non-dharmic personnel, non-dharmic peoples. In which case, I have to rely on what the Buddha is saying here and look for the kinds of people that he's saying, look for these people. I happen to have lucked into quite a few of them. Mostly the ones that I want to talk about today are, again, back in August of 24, I went and did a little video shoot for Patty Gertie's Tavern album. So if you're looking for me in any of the videos there, I'm in 4 of them, and you will notice, well, actually, unless you have the DVD, you're probably not going to see me in, you'll see me in 3 of them, but not the 4th one. Which is fine. I was just fortunate to have been able to take part in that. But you will notice the random monk in brown robes and with a bald head kind of running around throughout some of the videos. Particularly Dragon from Overhill, I'm in that one quite a bit. Amongst others. But the main point that I'm getting at with that is, yes, so I was part of that, part of the extras for that. We call ourselves the Tavern Squad now. And yes, 2 years later, we are still in communication. We are still friends. Why? Because all of us kind of came together and we built a group chat as well that we're all still active in. And it's amazing being able to have that kind of friend context, because they put like little sub-channels, right? One is, we called one like taking care of each other or something. I'm not going to give the actual names in case somebody might decide to search for them. So I'm not going to tell you what the actual titles of these are. Or like visits to this place or that place, or attending this concert or that concert, or just meeting up and having meeting up and doing things together. But that one about taking care of each other, that particular channel means a lot to me because it is, we do, like, we bring up all of this stuff, right? We reveal our secrets to each other and preserve them as best we can, right? And we don't forsake each other, nor do we roughly despise each other. We come together and we're like, okay, this member of the Tavern Squad is enduring this particular challenge. Let's help, right? Let's at least work through, you know, with our minds and figure out if there's a way that we can fix, or if we can figure this out. And that's exactly what a good friend is supposed to do, right? This is not necessarily giving what is hard to give, and this is not necessarily doing what is hard to do, because I don't think any of us really thinks of it in those terms. All of us, I think, if you asked us, would probably say, that's just us being us, that's just us doing normal things. But it does matter because it is, we share these, you know, some of the things that's going on in our lives, and it's been some very interesting things. I'm not going to talk about what, because obviously confidentiality, but those things that we've helped each other through really matter, right? So we are, in that way, we generate a lot of respect for each other because we are able to work through those things, right? We build a lot of esteem for each other, and I have a lot of esteem for all of my Tavern Squad peers, right? And again, going back to why I'm talking about this is, if you don't have a Dharma community that you can be part of, sometimes finding that next best thing is what works, right? So with this, with having no temples locally, and it's kind of just me and a handful of people practicing together from time to time, meeting up and doing things locally, sometimes having that group of non-dharmic friends, it may not be quite the same as having you know, a Dharma community locally, but it does do what the Buddha is saying. And these you know, the Tavern Squad really kind of meets all of those criteria, or pretty much all of them. And sometimes sometimes the things that we've brought up have been fairly contentious. So like when we're talking about, when the Buddha says a good friend is a speaker and patiently endures being spoken to and gives deep talks, that's like all across the board. That's how that little community has figured things out, right? And so while I could find similar things in a Dharma community, in a community of practice, that's maybe, I think the nearest one would be in Nuremberg, and that's an hour away, at least, right? So if I can have this kind of like digital community where we've all met, we've actually gotten together and done, you know, and actually had real adventures together, outside of just the video shoot, right? We've gone and met and done things, and we've met at various places. I've hosted some of them at my house, and we've had such deep talks. We've had such not necessarily all like happy and good and like pleasant stuff. Sometimes this is members of the Tavern Squad who've come. And I'm thinking specifically of one. He is he self-identifies. I'm not going to give away his identity, right? We'll just call him the hamster, or the rat. No, the mouse. No, the guinea pig. No, we'll call him the capybara. I think you probably kind of laugh at me for doing that. He usually likes to be called a specific kind of mammal, and so we usually use that. I'm not using that one specifically. I'm going to call him the capybara because capybaras are fun and unique and interesting animals. And so he's stayed over at my house, and we've had some very in-depth conversations about each other's lives and what's going on in each other's lives. And, maybe this would be a better way of going about this, maybe this would be a better way of going about that. But we have those, we speak to each other, we endure being spoken to, and we have those deep talks. And that's the kind of person that the Buddha is saying, this is the friend you find, right? Go find this kind of person as a friend. Now, could I do that with family? Sure. Could I do that with a Dharma community digitally? Sure. And I'm not saying I don't, because again, all of the Buddhist chaplains have a nice little group chat that we hash things out in. But sometimes, especially for those who don't necessarily have that same access, finding good friends of whatever variety, finding good friends of whatever source who meet these criteria, who will do these things, those are the kinds of friends that we need to have that can help us. That we should, even if they don't, even if they dismiss us, we should do our best to make sure that we are being good friends to them too. And I think that's important on the path because, yes, we can talk all day and all night about having compassion for others. If we don't have those around us who can help us to understand what that means and to help us to do that, it's a lot harder. Having those friends around, preferably Dharma friends, preferably a Dharma community, but if you don't have a Dharma community around, finding friends that meet these criteria is quite useful. It is quite important, right? Nobody practices the path alone. Nobody walks the path alone. We all walk the path with those who are in our lives, who we interact with. And as we do so, if we have good friends, it makes that load, it makes that the burden, it makes the struggles that we go through that much easier. It makes sure that we can work through those struggles in an appropriate fashion, right? So I guess the kind of the idea here today is, yes, have compassion, loving kindness, just as a mother would for her only child, but also have some good friends around you too, right? Don't try and, yes, you are the only one who can technically walk the path, right? Nobody else can walk the path for you. But, and this is important, there are people who can walk the path with you, who can walk through your life with you, even if they're not walking for you, even if they're not doing everything for you, right? Because obviously you yourself must find the truth. You yourself must find the way. The Buddhas only show you, the direction, right? Having good friends around, if you don't have any Buddhas around you, having good friends around you is a pretty logical next best. So let's figure out who those friends are in our lives, and let's figure out how we are being friends to them. Let's figure out how we maybe could do a better job of being friends to each other. Because sometimes, nobody's going to get it right all the time. Nobody's perfect. Maybe we can look at ourselves and say, okay, I could have done a better job of being a friend to so-and-so. I could have done this. I could have, given them some deep talks. I could have listened when they needed someone to hear them. I could have, as they were telling me their stuff, I could have kept their stuff, whatever the case may be, right? Maybe it's when they needed me to do something hard, I wasn't quite there, and I can do that. I can be that. I can do what is hard to do and give what is hard to give now, right? Maybe that's the message for today, is just be that good friend for somebody. Do what you can. You're not going to be perfect at it. Nobody is. And you're not going to be able to be perfect friends for absolutely every human being ever. It's just not going to happen. But you can be a good friend for somebody. Let's go do that. Okay. I'm going to put the arm down and close out with some chanting and some bows, and we'll call it a day.
Alright, thanks for watching Dharma Roots. We'll see you guys next time.